We are just 2 months shy of the one-year anniversary of Seth Rich's murder, and ever since we learned Rich was a DNC staffer, the conspiracy theories online have taken a life of their own. But today, Fox 5 has learned there is new information that could prove these theorists are, in fact, right. New information from the family's private investigators suggests there is tangible evidence on Seth Rich's laptop that confirms he was communicating with WikiLeaks prior to his death. Now, the question is, why has D.C. police, as the lead agency on the investigation for the past 10 months, insisted this was a botched robbery when till this day there is no evidence to suggest that? The Rich family hired Rod Wheeler, a former MPD homicide detective, to run a parallel investigation into their son's death. Wheeler says he believes there's a cover-up and the police department has been told to back down from the investigation.
The police department nor the FBI has been forthcoming. They haven't been cooperating at all. I believe that the answer to solving his death lies on that computer, which I believe is either at the police department or either at the FBI. I've been told both. But you have sources at the FBI saying that there is information that could link Seth Rich to WikiLeaks? Absolutely. Yeah, and that's confirmed. Actually, I have a source inside the police department that has looked at me straight in the eye and said, Rod, we were told to stand down in this case, and I can't share any information with you. Now, that's highly unusual for a murder investigation.
This damning report sets the stage for a new Hillary investigation. An independent prosecutor now needs to be impaneled to investigate the full extent of the Seth Rich murder. This report tells us once again that the FBI was covering up for Hillary and that President Trump was absolutely right in firing FBI conman James Comey.
July 5th, 2016, James Comey's press conference, where we thought he was laying out a strong case for the indictment of Hillary Clinton. And we're going to go point by point through his statements and then show you specifically laws that were broken based on his own words. Let's start here.
From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received. 8 of those chains contained information that was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 of those chains contained secret information at the time, and 8 contained confidential information at the time. That's the lowest level of classification. Separate from those, about 2,000 additional emails were up-classified to make them confidential. Those emails had not been classified at the time that they were sent.
Now, the FBI director is basically saying there, Clinton broke the law. What law? 18 U.S. Code 1924. What is that? The unauthorized removal and retention of classified documents or material. Let's continue. Let's watch Comey say this.
The FBI also discovered several thousand work-related emails that were not among the group of 30,000 emails returned by Secretary Clinton to State in 2014. We found those emails in a variety of ways. Some have been deleted over the years, and we found traces of them on servers or devices that have been connected to the private email domain.
All right, what is he saying? What law comes into play here that Clinton violated? 18 U.S. Code 793, gathering, transmitting, or losing defense information, which we know with 99% certainty that, in fact, 5 foreign intelligence agencies were able to get a hold of. Here's the next part.
Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
Extremely careless, but the law states gross negligence. What's the difference? Here are the laws that were violated here. 18 U.S. Code 793, again, gathering, transmitting, or losing defense information, and 18 U.S. Code 1905, disclosure of confidential information generally. Okay, let's go to Comey's next statement.
7 email chains concern matters that were classified at the top secret special access program at the time they were sent and received. Those chains involve Secretary Clinton both sending emails about those matters and receiving emails about those same matters. There is evidence to support a conclusion that any reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position or in the position of those with whom she was corresponding about those matters should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation.
Amazing. Here are the laws that apply here. 18 U.S. Code 798. Disclosure of classified information. Again, 18 U.S. Code 793. Gathering, transmitting, losing defense information. 18 U.S. Code 1905. Disclosure of confidential information generally. Now, this is only the tip of the iceberg. All of these are serious, prosecutable crimes which Comey ignored. And by the way, there's a former Navy machinist. His name is Christian Saucier. He's now sitting behind bars tonight. He's serving a year's sentence for taking 6 pictures of the submarine that he worked on. Hillary Clinton, she got to walk free.
I think we'd have to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt a general awareness of the unlawfulness of your conduct. You knew you were doing something you shouldn't do. And then, obviously, that's on the face of the statute itself. Then you need to consider, so who else has been prosecuted and in what circumstances, because it's all about prosecutorial judgment. But those 2 things would be the key questions. Can you prove that the person knew they were doing something they shouldn't do, a general criminal intent, general mens rea,
but the way to
treated other people similarly?
The way to prove that is whether or not someone took steps to conceal or destroy what they've done. That is the best evidence you have, that they knew it was wrong, that they lied about it.
It's very good evidence. Always want to look at what the subject said about their conduct.
It made contact with somebody from the Democratic National Committee's office, and they've been served. Democracy has prevailed today.
But in a bizarre twist of events, on August 2nd, less than 1 month after serving the subpoena, Lucas was reported dead. Police are not releasing the cause of death at this time and are not commenting on speculation that Lucas was murdered. His unusual and sudden death is fueling speculation about the recent death of Seth Rich. Rich, a DNC employee, was working on several committee cases involving voter and election fraud before he was murdered by gunshots. He was also set to testify in the FBI's email investigation of Hillary Clinton before he was killed. Authorities have ruled his death as a robbery gone wrong, but police records indicate nothing was stolen from Rich. His recent mysterious deaths appear to be something stranger than fiction.
Rich's murder made national news because of his job with the Democratic National Committee as the director of voter expansion data.
That was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
No, there's no finding. So
what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one of your sources then? I mean,
our sources face serious risks.
But it's quite something to suggest a murder. That's basically what you're doing.
We are investigating to understand what happened in that situation with Seth Rich.
But was he one of your sources then? I mean...
The Seth Rich case has just exploded back into the headlines with Julian Assange's assertion that Seth Rich was the WikiLeaks responsible for bringing down the DNC chair and exposing the rigged Democratic primary. That makes 2 murders in recent weeks that have been directly linked to events at DNC headquarters in Washington, D.C. Not only that, but we now know that Seth Rich wasn't just a staff member at the DNC as was widely reported. He was the director of voter expansion data, which means he had the electronic keys to the entire Democratic organization. As for the motives of his leak, it would seem that Seth Rich was a Bernie Sanders supporter who felt betrayed by the primary rigging, and so he leaked what he could to show that Hillary had stolen the nomination. This picture shows Seth Rich at the scene of the crime only a few blocks away from a trauma center. They had the time to string crime tape around his body, but they didn't have the time to travel 3 blocks to the emergency room to save his life. How many crimes does Hillary have to commit before the Department of Justice does its job?
The FBI quietly dumping more Hillary Clinton emails. It happened last night while much of the public was busy watching the Packers versus the Giants. 300 pages of documents put out by the FBI showing Mrs. Clinton was regularly sending confidential and secret information to someone outside the government. 300 pages of documents released by we don't know who within the FBI, which had possession of them,
Right.
turning them over to the public to see.
What we now know, what Donald Trump feared and argued during the campaign, and what rogue FBI agents who profoundly disagreed with Director Comey's decision to recommend against indictment was true. This is the smoking gun if ever there was one. It ramps up the case for her prosecution.